change, we gotta rearrange to create a world we envision. Make the quiet louder, bear witness. Proclaim your name cause you're gifted. There is power in forgiveness. Yeah. Love ourselves, there's no limit. Yeah. When you love yourself, there's no limit.
Welcome to Said What We Said, a podcast where generations of Blackness gather at the mic to speak our truths, build our power, and say the quiet parts out loud. From kitchen table wisdom to frontline organizing, we're bringing bold, honest conversations about life, love, justice, and legacy, with no sugarcoating and no holding back. This podcast is a program of Black Lives Matter New Hampshire and hosted by Tanisha Johnson and Lionel Lovelace. This is a space where stories meet strategy, healing meets humor, and every guest brings receipts. Whether we're unpacking community care, motherhood, fatherhood, movement work, kinship care, or mental health, we mean what we say, and we say it with our whole chest. Pull up a chair. You're in the right place.
Mr. Bowtie Daily here, sitting across from me, and it's me, Big Sister Gorgeous One, Miss Tanisha.
Yes, I love it. So, okay, we already joking around, but how was your week? I asked this last week was just crazy for all of us, but how was your week?
You know, I'm going to say my week has been busy. We are in gala mode here at BLM. If you don't know about the gala, please check it out. Or I don't know where you've been if you don't know about the gala.
Yeah, I don't know where you've been either. It's the best event in New Hampshire, hands down.
Yes, but it does take a lot of work. This year, we are turning a hair salon into an entire event space. So when you want to talk about the work, the energy, the permits, all the things that we're doing to get this done, when this gala is over, don't talk to me.
Y'all like, yeah, she's going to need rest for about 3 months. Yeah, y'all are not ready. I mean, this event is, like I said, I will always say that's probably the best event in New Hampshire. All the personalities come out. It's the Black Oscars. We show up, we show out, we have fun, we are in community. And that's what we kind of have to do here in New Hampshire, which is funny as it leads me into kind of how my week has been. I said earlier, I went apple picking for the first time. I've been in New Hampshire 10 years.
But wait, for the first time?
First time.
Ever?
Yeah.
Like in your life?
In my life. Well, I don't go pick apples when I can go to the grocery store. Just
I didn't want to say that.
just say, I just, it was kind of cool.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't take the apples home to eat.
Then what'd you do with them?
I gave them to somebody. It's like, y'all can have.
Oh, you should have gave me some. I would have made some pie.
Oh, okay, next time. Which will probably be 3 years from now. But I mean, I have allergies, and sometimes you don't be
I'm
outside.
hearing it. I was almost like, why didn't you cancel?
Because people like my voice.
Snorty like that.
Yeah, regardless.
Okay.
Mr. Bowtie Davis. Y'all heard she's coming for me. Let's get to our esteemed guest, because you can already tell Big Sister Gorgeous One is on one today. She messing with me, but that's okay. So let's talk about this person that is here today.
You know, once you hear the voice, you're gonna know. You're gonna know.
I knew from the first time I met this person, I'm like, this person's gonna be a lot like the vibe was unmistakable. So, Tanisha, do you want to do it, or how do you want to do this? I mean, I just say let's like, hey, bring it in.
Introduce yourself.
Okay.
Oh, you heard it. You heard it.
So, if you don't know who this is in the first 6 words, this is Angel Simone.
Woo! Yeah.
I am a non-binary Black person of color, loving to be here. I am originally from Liverpool, England, and I have been in America for 20 years. I've spent a lot of my time in Trinidad and Tobago, and I have met Lionel and T over the last 5 years, and it's just been amazing.
I mean, of course.
Of course, yes.
What else can you say?
I love having these kind of conversations, and that's why I'm here today. I love having courageous conversations. I am gay and a queer person of color. That's how I identify, and even having conversations around the intersectionality behind race and sexual orientation is a huge part of my jive. And so I'm glad to be here and hang with you all.
I have personally witnessed Angel come into a room and captivate the room just by the first couple of words. I was fortunate enough to be part of a leadership program where Angel was actually one of the facilitators. And I knew what was going to happen. But then watching the faces of my classmates are like in awe. In the first 10 seconds, something, oh, she can get whatever she wants from these people. And the deal was, it was amazing to see being here in New Hampshire, having a woman of color stand in front of a room full of people that are not of color and captivate them to where they're listening to every word you said was amazing.
Thank
Every 5 minutes, I was like, amen, amen, amen.
Well, and I will tell you, my first meeting was at TEDx.
Yes.
And Angel did the TEDx talk. And I was sitting there and I was like, why don't I know this person? How do I not know who this is? And the story you gave,
Yes.
your story, your life
Yeah.
story, literally touched my soul. And I was like, the way you told it, the passion behind it, all of it, and the way you got to hear with so much joy and so much love. And I listened to it, I'm like, I know I've overcome a lot. And I'm like, could I? Could I overcome? Like, could I even share? You know what I mean? Could I even have the courage to share that story? I just got the courage to start really sharing my story maybe like a year or two ago. My point is, that was my first experience with you. And I was like, I have to be friends. I have to hear more. I have to know more. I have to understand more. Not the story, but how you got to the end of kind of reclaiming that space. So that is what today is about, is telling our stories that have been dismissed, that are not listened to. How do we get over that? How do we reclaim that space? How do we reclaim your space, whether it's after racism or trauma or learning who you are? How do we do that? And I find it very hard to do that, as I just came out a couple years ago. Although I've been this way all my life, I've been following the norms and raised by religious older parents, all of those things. Like, I still don't feel like I'm the person that the world doesn't know the person that I truly am. Maybe certain people do, know segments, but I won't go deep crazy over it. But like, it's a lot,
It is a lot. And I kind of feel you on that. I feel like, sitting at this table with you two, you know a lot about me. Not everything, but a lot about me. But then I think about if I was to go home and sit around family and some of my core group of friends, I could be my true self. But once I left that core and go out into the world, let's say I'm going to get a haircut at the barbershop, I couldn't be myself. I'm being silent because of what other people may think about a gay man or whatever.
Yeah. I think we claim the narrative of what people say about us, and we assume and presume that we're going to be seen in a certain way. And so we shrink and we code switch and we adapt and we give up our space. We give up our power. And my journey has been a lot about reclaiming my space. And I love the song that plays at the front of this podcast, because it talks about when you truly love yourself, there's no limit. And I think that is the foundation of not just reclaiming space in a group, but reclaiming your space first. There's no way you are going to be able to push forward a community to take up space if you haven't learned to step into a room and take up space for yourself.
Ooh, that was
Let that marinate for just a second, because wow.
how do we as a community though do that, especially in a place like New Hampshire?
So, I sat with that question because you talk about, people hear my voice, etc., and they're like, oh my gosh, it's Angel Simone. And yet I sit with people have told me I'm not Black enough. The only way we as a community can begin to reclaim space is when we stop having the infighting within ourselves first, right? And we begin to push each other and motivate each other and promote each other. There's too much tearing down of each other. There's too much jealousy. There's too much infighting. And if you don't show up a certain way as a Black person, you're not accepted, etc. And as a community, until we can begin to come together truly as one and stop looking back, but begin to look forward and say, where do we want to go? Who do we want to be? as Black people in New Hampshire? Who do we want to represent? What do we represent? What is our values as Black people? I think we will continue to feel like it's like a hamster in a circle. We're going around the same thing
Yeah.
Right.
over and
Yeah.
over and over
Yeah.
again.
So do you think it's that jealousy per se is amplified within the Black community here in New Hampshire because there's not a large Black community here? So do you think, people are code switching to fit in to take away from the other Black person that may not,
I think it's our struggle to find space. It's coming back to that. In an attempt to find space, we're taking space away from somebody else, right? And so it's instead of just being authentic to ourselves and owning who we are and loving who we are for ourselves and knowing that we're worthy, we've unfortunately accepted the narrative that says we're not worthy, we're not enough. And so in order to make ourselves feel worthy or make ourselves feel enough, we're taking away from somebody else. And we see that not even just in race, right? Just even in groups of people where you speak over somebody, you want to speak louder, you want to be bigger or whatever, because we want to take away from that because we are not secure enough in ourselves in who we are.
So does self-care help with that? Do you think? I mean,
Yes.
because, like last episode, I said, I talk to myself, I cuss myself out sometimes to get that motivation, Is it the self-care that helps us get?
Self-care, what I call self-possession, full of yourself. There is a space where you have to love yourself so much more than the communal they don't. And that's the work. That's the work. Part of my story is coming out from an evangelical environment as gay and being heard over and over and over and over again that I am not enough, I am perverted, I am a sinner, I am going to hell, and all of that. And really working hard to stop the noise and going inside and saying, who am I and am I worthy? And we are all worthy because we're human. Done. And so when you walk into a room, the reason why you can take up space, even if that room was not created for you, is because you're human. And that has got to be enough. And unfortunately, we're hearing it's not enough.
I struggle with that, even as I know a lot of you are like, Tanisha, no, like I come off very much self-confident and all of that, but there are moments where I still struggle of walking into a room, what's going to be said, what do I look like, do I fit in enough? We were talking about hair. We touched on hair a little bit last time. And one of the other things is I don't have as much self-love for myself to even walk out with the hair, right? With the afro, to be like, it's okay. And that stereotype and that narrative about who we should be or how we should look has been ingrained in me since birth, right? Whether it was from parents who saying I need to be better, whether it's from being around all white kids in school that I wanted to look like them, I wanted to fit in, I wanted to do all the things. Now at 43, although I love who I am, but I'm still like, nope, not doing that. Like, not gonna walk out with that hair, not gonna say this, not gonna be too ghetto, but also don't want to be too white. So to make sure I know all the good words, you know what I mean? Like, make sure I keep up with some of the good songs, It's hard. And I really struggle with that balance of like being 100% me, unapologetically. And still have all the relationships, get the money, get the funding,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do all the things that we need to do as a business and as relationship builders.
Yeah. And it's almost like you're playing the game, the balance of how do I assimilate to a certain extent in
Right.
order to do the job and yet still feel like I'm aligned with who I am. And it is a push and pull
Yeah.
every single day.
And imagine how many people are doing that.
Yes.
Not even
That's
just
how much
Black
energy
folks.
it takes.
Just
Yes, the
anyone.
energy. Anyone
Yeah.
doing that. And I think about our kiddos, our queer kiddos that go through this every day, who hide who they are, who they want to be, how they want to live because of parents, because of friends, because of whatever the reason may be. And it's just like, I don't know how we think we can get better or even as far as saying to you, like, how do we even reclaim that space when we're doing this push and pull on a daily basis? I literally envy folks that are like, no, this is me, here I am. And I'm like,
Right.
I say it, but I don't always mean it. You know what I mean? Like, I
feel
do,
you.
you know?
Yeah.
But like, I envy that. So like, for you to say, I walk into the room and I demand this and this is what it is, I'm like, let me write down the quote, you know? Let me put that post-it up, you
Yeah,
know?
but I think, see, I came to a place where everything was taken away from me when I came out as gay. And at a point where you've lost everything, you get to a place where there's nothing to lose. So if I'm going to
Okay.
be treated in a certain way because of who I am, let me be treated that way because I'm showing up authentically, not because I'm small. And I think that's where I've come. And to your point, T, I can say I don't care what people think of me.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's true to an extent,
To an extent,
right?
yeah.
There's certain people where you're like, maybe,
Maybe.
but in general, I have nothing to lose anymore.
I love that. Well, I hope to one day get to that point. I love being Mr. Bowtie Daily, running a bow tie every day, but I find myself with the weight of being Mr. Bowtie Daily every day.
Yeah.
So I created Mr. Bowtie Daily to kind of, take away from being the black guy, being the gay guy, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
No, I'm Mr.
Interesting.
Bowtie Daily. But now I'm just like, really? I
Mhm.
love my bow ties. And I'm like, is that really all I'm about?
Yeah.
And so, when people see me without a bow tie, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you?
It's true. That is true. I've been out with you and I'm like, damn, they act like he ain't
Seriously.
human.
People are like,
Yeah,
"What's
it's
that?"
bad.
And I'm letting my hair down. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
I'm being who I'm supposed to be. Mr. Bowtie Daily is not just the one thing
The
that
one
I
part
am.
of your identity.
Yeah.
But it's almost like they don't know how to relate to you
Without
outside
it.
of that.
Yes. Well, and the other piece of this for me is probably for everyone is when you're not heard as much as we're not heard as Black people, as queer people, as all the different things, you begin to also believe that you're not worthy or you don't matter because what's the point? No one's listening anyway. And there's times where I've attempted to say, this is what has happened to me in my life, like my story of Dom being born and having that miscarriage, with him is just like, people are just like, happens all the time, like, and that whole like, oh, well, you're right. What am I wallowing over? It happens all the time, or doctors get it wrong, they misdiagnose you. So what? You had 6 months of on steroids and you were, the angry monster walking around the street, not knowing there's a whole lump in your throat. Like, and people are like, it happens all the time. And so I've been dismissed so much to the point where I'm like, you know what? It really doesn't matter because I'm one of 50 people who have the same exact story.
Right.
So, like, living in that dismissal, I lose my voice. We lose our voice.
Mhm.
And one of the things we need to start teaching each other, maybe you need to teach a course on it.
I mean, to be-
reclaiming that,
Yeah, real right now, our voices, Black voices right now in this country is if we say, I'm sorry somebody passed away, but that has nothing to do with me. You are demonized. You can't live in your truth. So like Tanisha said, is there a course? Is there a book? Is there some food we can
Some collars.
somebody? Yeah.
I was listening to your last episode, and I don't know who talked about it, but it talked about that we're tired, and that's what's coming up for me in this is we've felt silenced and overlooked for so long. It's like, you know what? Then don't listen. I don't have anything to say, and yet if we stop speaking, we're in trouble, right? Black people have been the leaders in creativity, in art, in music, and all of that. And society will lose a lot if we stop speaking. And, what keeps me speaking is the fact that if you're silencing me, I obviously have some power. I obviously am saying something that's agitating you. I'm obviously speaking to your privilege and your power. And so your silencing me is actually fueling me to keep on talking because I'm obviously making an impact. And And yes, it takes every ounce of courage and energy. And there's a place where I'm like, sometimes I'm just going to be silent. And maybe that's the choices we need to make, is
Right.
to know
Mhm.
when do we speak up and when do we stay silent to protect my own mental health.
Yeah.
Like last week with
Yeah.
everything going on, I was like, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
Mhm.
I don't even want to be on social media.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I told a couple of people go talk to the trees because I can't hear it. You just leading into how do you protect your energy in that situation, because there are people coming at you that are poking you. They want you
Mhm.
to engage, and they want you to be that angry Black person or that angry queer person. How do you? I mean, as far as like, how do you do that? How do you stand in that moment and say, you know what?
That's exactly what I do.
That
That's
is
it.
a hard. I mean, I tell people to go talk to trees, but I do it in a way of I'm petty about it, but I'm not protecting my energy because I still let them in to where I'm angry as I walk away.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So in that moment, how do you protect that positive energy?
Are they worth it? So don't
Mhm.
let anybody impact you whose advice you would never take.
Can I write that down?
Right. I'm so quiet during this because I'm just like, I'm taking that in. I don't look. Let me just give you the mic. Just keep going. Give the sermon.
No, but if it's not somebody that you would typically go to advice for, why are you allowing them to impact your energy? Your energy is yours. And so in that moment, I have to stand and say, are you, person speaking to me, worth my energy? And 9 out of 10 times they are not. Because if they were, they wouldn't be saying the thing that they're saying.
Ooh, child, we on some Fifth Element stuff right now.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like, it's the first time I think we've been this quiet.
Which is a good thing,
Yeah.
because this is feeding our soul.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
Silence is a strategy. You don't have to give your energy away in every room. You don't. That's part of the power. When I choose to be silent,
Yeah.
rather than allow you to silence me. And I think sometimes that's what we get mixed up. We think if I'm silent, I've allowed them to silence me. But maybe it's I have chosen to be silent because you're not worth my energy.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Because I've practiced this. I'm going to be silent, right? I'm going to let this person
Mhm.
talk and talk and talk. And then I sit silent
Mm-hmm.
and I don't say a thing. And I just walk away. And I don't
You
always
feel-
feel like that was the appropriate thing to do. Or
Mhm.
maybe not appropriate is not the right word, but I'm always left feeling like, no, I had
should have
something
said
to
something.
say.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, no, that I should have done something. And so I need to work on that whole interchange, that balance of, because I think that's where I'm left at is I'm not choosing to be silent. I'm letting them silence me because I'm thinking that's the best way
Yeah.
to handle conflict, right? Is to not go into a back and forth and just stay silent and walk away. But I never feel like my peace was protected.
He would say something to me, and I'm like, oh, I can say something.
Right? You're like, oh, if
Like,
only
nope.
you knew.
You're like, nope, keep it to myself.
Yep. Silence.
And I get mad, I'm like, I should have said it. I'm like, no, that's not worth saying it. I'm not saying that he's not worth it, but it just, in
No,
that
yeah.
moment, it was
It's
not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, burnish? Not because I got hurt anything. No, I'm going to keep it to myself.
I guess the question is, would it have changed the situation?
I've been happy in the moment.
And maybe even after. Just say it.
But you're right. I mean, being able to sit back, I think that's maturity that I have developed over time. It's not always there, because I'm not even gonna lie. I'm gonna be real. Sometimes I say stuff I should not say, but it's emotional. It's when you are attached to somebody or you love somebody. I'm not just going out in the public, in the streets saying stuff to people. 'Cause, I'd be on the news if I was. But when you love somebody, Tanisha and I could be having a conversation, and I could say something to her. I'm like, dang, I shouldn't have said that. But she gonna say something back. I'm like, oh, okay, we good. So
I think about that word unapologetic. A lot we use it to describe this podcast, right?
yeah,
And it kind of goes along with what you're saying of being kind of in your energy, in your space, reclaiming that to not even have to say unapologetically. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Because do we use that word as a defense mechanism to be like, we're going to be authentic. We're going to be unfiltered and unapologetic. Now, I'm not changing all the marketing. I'm just saying, like, you say that so that people know you're going to show up
Show up in a
differently,
certain way.
right? In a space. This is not going to
Yes.
be the normal cutesy Tanisha or Lionel. This might be a little bit different from us.
Yes.
And is that a mechanism of defense? To be like, well, I told you I was going to be a little bit
Ooh.
more. I told you I was going to be a little bit more open, vulnerable,
Well, and then
careless.
especially being one of us, being a person of color,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to walk that line.
It's almost like a content warning label.
Right, right.
It was like,
But
brace yourself.
But do we do ourselves a disservice though? Because why can't we be like this? No, I'm not saying the cussing and the this and the that and the jokes, but why can't we talk freely with this type of a conversation on a regular basis? You know what I mean? Why do we need to wait to this podcast? Because we already branded it as unapologetic for me to be open and say, you know what? I'm not always 100% Tanisha. I don't know if everybody truly knows me.
Yeah. But I think we spend so much time code switching
Mm,
and adapting that when we are choosing not to, we feel the need to announce it.
mm.
Right. So when I went to the Caribbean last year, and just being around Black and brown people, and was all good and amazing. And I came back to New Hampshire and I realized it.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta put back on the
Right,
mats. I gotta put back on this clothes.
Yes.
And you don't even realize you're doing it until you leave and come back. And I'm like, oh, dang,
Mm-hmm.
24/7. 24/7. You're showing up in a way that is not authentic to yourself. But does it come down to just survival and safety? Tell you what, if we were to show up authentically all the time, unapologetically,
No,
do you think we're safe?
No.
no, not
No.
even.
I'll do this on the flip side for you. I go down south to visit
Yeah.
family. Not a lot. Probably should go more. But even when I go down there, my family is in North Carolina. You know, soon as I get off of the airplane and you just see nothing but blackness, I am like the opposite. I'm like, all right, Tanisha,
Be Black.
be black. You know,
So
turn it up just a little bit, you know, walk a little different, maybe take that cardigan off, you know what I mean? Like put on the hoodie, you know, just change it up a little bit. You go to all of that. The voice gets a little bit more deeper, the words got a little bit more twang to it. I'm putting the more blackness on, which I'm not sure is authentic either. You know what I mean? So like, and then when I leave there and hop back on the plane and come back here, then I take that off, you know, then like, all right, add that little bit of that little assimilation back on, get a little bit of white blackness you got going on there. You bring that back a little bit. You do it so often back and forth. What becomes the real you?
But so the authenticity, being authentic is like in the middle. So you have
What
two
is
scales.
that?
But I think it's where you're by yourself watching Wednesday Addams on Netflix.
Really?
That type.
Yes, we watch Wednesday.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's the moment when you're by
Mhm.
yourself, not having to worry about anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's you telling your story. I'm sitting there thinking like, dang, I really, that impacts me hard because I'm like, I feel the exact same way. And who
Who are you?
are? And I'm like, you know, I'm over here in this bow tie. I'm over here in these gym shorts. What, you know, I'm like,
Yes.
what do I feel
Yes.
the most comfortable?
Yes.
And I think it's on couch watching Wednesday Adam or Black and Beauty or whatever it's called.
Oh,
Something,
yeah. Black is Beauty on BET.
You know, or
The
listen to
Tyler
some
Perry.
Chinese music. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you get what I'm saying? Though?
Oh, no,
Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, when I was going through part of my journey, one of the advices I got, some of the best advice I ever got, was to separate the voice of God from the voice of the church. And what that meant for me is I had built a person that was defined by the voice of the church, and I had become this thing to be accepted in the church. And I had assumed that the church represented the voice of God. But if we leave that space and you shut off all the voices, and you believe that God is within you, that is who you are. You are who you are without the external voices. And it's scary to sit in that space because some of us our identity is based on the external voices. But can you trust yourself enough to say, okay, If I was to shut all of that out, who am I? And then once you discover who you are, and then love yourself because you may discover some things about yourself that you're not care about, then show up in that power. Because when you show up fully authentic, space is created.
Yes.
Space is created. They can't tell you any different because it's who you are. It's your experience. They can't tell you it's not true.
Right. Now, we're not saying that we're fake, so people don't go, I'm like, oh, they fake. That's not what they are. It's just, it's the reality of it. The code switching, the having to cater to different audiences. It's hard out here for a pimp.
But also, I think when we have folks that are listening to this and we have our allies and co-conspirators that listen to this podcast, and I know they take things from it. And I think one of the things that what I'm hearing right now is as Black people, we have gone through so much. There's so many things that we have to deal with. Even we talked about last episode of what mothers and fathers have to teach their kids and how we do that differently. All of that leads to 40-something-year-old people trying to figure out who the hell they are.
Yep.
You know, you know what
Come
I
on
mean?
now, yes.
Like it is seriously like this is a problem. This is not just every old midlife crisis that you end up going through and you're like, oh my God, I'm not young anymore. I'm getting old. This is like legit. As a person and a human being, we have to grapple with on a daily basis of who we are and how we show up. And that imbalance messes with us as people. And so when we say we're tired, when we say we're struggling and we're stressed or we're not going to do this or not going to do that anymore, it's because not only do we have to deal with racism, microaggressions, our kids, family,
Homophobia.
like all of that, then we have to turn around and look at ourselves and go, wait, who were you today? And that right there, damn. But then I take it a step further and I say, what about those kids who don't have the person to say, take away the voices and figure out who you are? And we wonder why our Black kids are struggling right now. We wonder why our queer kids are struggling or have been struggling for years. And it's just like, if I'm 43 and just going ding dong, like, oh my gosh, I haven't, I need to figure this out about myself and what's my middle ground. Imagine where they're at. And how do we do something about that and start listening to their stories? You know what I mean? And listen to our own kids' stories. Like, how do we change that with our kids?
Well, do you think the kids, and it amazes me watching kids, when I say kids, maybe the age of 10 to 20, how they interact with each other. It's like almost like being gay is not a thing, being bisexual is not a thing. It's like we love everybody. But our our stuff that we put on them makes them have to reevaluate how they're living life. Are we hurting these kids with our burden of not being authentic to ourselves?
Well, I think it's all facets, right? So yes, there's the individual relationship, there's the interpersonal relationship. But unfortunately, our administration is also playing a part,
Yep.
right? No matter what we were to do in our home, they're going to step out and they're watching TV and listening to news that says being LGBTQ or trans is a crime of nature. Come on, right? So the work that we have to do is systemic at best. Yeah. Right. And the suicide rate amongst the LGBTQ students it's heartbreaking.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they see no hope and
Right.
etc. And I think if it's one thing that Hollywood has started to try and do better, is just to have representation.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I do with my kids, so my kids have been with me through me pretending not to be gay in the closet and coming out. And I sat them down and I told them my story. And do with it what you will, kid. But this is my story and this is what discrimination can look like. So putting aside being queer or being Black, everybody is struggling with something somehow. We're all code switching somehow, right?
Yes.
What? And what is the work that we want to do to love ourselves unapologetically? So I'm going to love myself without saying sorry. So much so that it infects our kids to do the same. My daughter has come to me and made a decision around religion and Christianity, not because of what I said, but because of what I did and how I showed up. And kids are looking at us and we're pointing away.
I'm just writing so many notes. I'm
You can
sorry,
listen to the
y'all.
recording, sweet.
No, it's still. I'm one of those people that I gotta write it down and listen to it. Yeah. So, is there hope? I feel like we had this conversation last time too. It's so funny. A friend of mine was listening to the podcast, and she said, I was listening to the episode and I just felt this despair in your voice when you talked about, like, is there hope? And I was like, really? Did I sound that bad? Right? Like, that was my first thought. I was like, I didn't think I was that, like, dang, like, was I that sad? But then I'm like, or is that just me now?
There has to be hope. So one of the things I sit with, having come from Europe, and Europe is thousands of years old, and America is a young country. Europe went through this a couple thousand years ago. And so they're on the other side. There's hope. There's hope. Is it in our generation? Not sure, right?
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
hurts. That's what's hard to sit with. We may never see the change. I think our kids are showing up in a way that LGBTQ is no longer a thing
Yeah.
between them.
Right.
It's when other people say
Yes.
it's a thing.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the issue.
Yeah.
So I think there is hope.
And that's
think
what I
there is
feel
hope.
about racism. Like between some in our generation, is racism may not be as big of a thing, but because those parents of ours are still alive, it becomes a thing.
Yes.
Like it's crazy because I'll tell you, a friend of mine, not a friend of mine, Dom's friends, family, they have a camp. And they were like, we want you to come to summer camp. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll come to camp. As a Black person, I was like, camp. So, like, is it a hotel camp? Like, what am I doing? Like that was my first thought. And then second thought, and she said, well, and I saw her again, and she's like, oh, I didn't have you come to camp because you only had like 1 week. And, the grandparents were there and they're MAGA, so I didn't want to set you up for that. And it's like, she's amazing as a parent. We've had several conversations about what's going on in the world and how we're dealing with our kids. But then and I'm like, oh, still the generation.
Yep.
Still got the parents, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And thank goodness you didn't have me come because that would have been a shit show.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
You would have to sit the same. In uprooting meditation, I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, I have about 50 years left on this earth. And I'm like, hopefully. And I'm like, will I see the change that I imagine and dream of in people? And honestly, when we talk about hope, I didn't come to the conclusion that I would. And that's 50 years from now. And I hate to be that way because I'm always joy and love and this and that. But maybe it's just the current time right now because it's so heavy on us all. But it does scare me.
Same. I was rereading Marsha P. Johnson's story in 1972, the fight for LGBTQ gay rights.
Yeah.
We are almost in exactly the same space 50 years later.
Wow.
Think about that.
I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah. Yeah. We literally are just going in circles.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
I was saying that about civil rights. Like we talk about DEI and civil rights, DEI, whatever you want to call it, right? Like it's all the same things. And we keep talking about the language and people are like, they're taking the language away. And I'm like, it's the same thing from 50, 60 years ago. Like we're doing it again.
Same fight.
You still have to do the action. The action doesn't change. You can change the word every single day, but we really are. Is that us? I mean, let me rephrase that question. It shows truly, and this is not a question, that this is a system issue. It's not so much a people issue, that it really is the system because we haven't changed the systems. Yes, we added a couple rights. We added a couple laws that says people can do this or that, which those laws are now being taken away
Right.
in some, version or fashion. It really is a system.
I remember doing a DEI training and they were talking about the groundwater approach where you can have all these rivers and streams and you look and you see in a stream that there's fish floating dead in the river. And so you do something about the river and you come back and there's more fish floating. Why isn't us treating the river working? And it's because the groundwater, the actual water in the earth, in the trees, in the root system, is what's contaminated. And until you can fix the groundwater, you'll never fix the surface water. And that's what makes me think about this is
Yeah.
until we address systemic discrimination, systemic oppression, systemic racism in our educations, in a school, in community, in media, in all of those spaces, we can make a dent. It's almost like one step forward, two steps back, because the system keeps pulling us back.
Well, why do you think we can't address that? Why can't we get past the red light?
Because we got people in office that just don't allow us to. It's almost like we get so far. And let's even bring it back to when Obama was in office. He even got so far and then cut.
Right.
Whether it was by, don't get me, I'm not the best in history and government, but whether it was Congress or whoever, he got stopped. That presidential power only had so far. The difference with him now and Trump is Trump could care less, and he is just pushing his agenda by any means necessary, whether it's legal or not.
So is it the people, so the people that have the red light, is it them refusing to address the trauma that from their past and their ancestors that's holding us up? Is it them refusing to be, to embrace healing? What is it? I mean,
I think it's refusing to understand when we think about, let's go with the system of police, the police structure, understanding that that police structure was built to capture slaves. So when you have a foundation like that, whatever sprouts from it is always going to be messy. It's always going to be corrupt in a fashion. I'm not saying there's no good cops. I'm saying the structure and the system of police, whatever you want to call it, was built on capturing slaves. Until you dismantle that and change the reason why we have police, it will always be this power imbalance system.
And I think all our systems are built on some form of discrimination. When you think of the mental health space, where being Black was seen as a mental illness.
Right.
And nobody has dismantled these systems and rebuilt them from scratch. And so anything to do with mental health and being Black or queer and it being seen as a disease is always going to be there. And it influences any laws or policies that get made because it's based on a system that is based in oppression and racism.
Yep.
so can we kind of take, so, this administration, they're dismantling the Department of Education. So would this be an opportunity when the next president comes in, that's possibly a Democrat, to rebuild and start over with the Department of Education? Could that be kind of hope in a sense? I mean, I'm trying to,
We looked around like, I don't know.
I'm just thinking because I have friends that are in education who are like, I'm not doing this right now. But then I'm like, 4 years from now, we're going to need you to rebuild the Department of Education. And maybe that's a way to strip it all down and start over.
If those voices are loud enough and if those voices are tapped into, it's the question is, if we are looking to rebuild the Department of Education 4 years from now, who's going to be in the room that's creating that? Even if it's a Democratic president, who are they surrounded by? What kind of roadblocks are they going to come up against? What kind of speed bumps and opportunities and resistance they're going to get in trying to rebuild it in such a way that makes us all have equal access to education.
Gotcha.
And I think that's where I would be like, not too sure.
And that's where we keep getting hung up at. So it's like we will keep revisiting these things. And it might be a whole different issue 50 years from now with the next generation coming up. Weird things and things like that, but it's going to be still things within the system like police structure, like government, like education. Those things are going to exist until it completely crumbles and is rebuilt again. And I'm not saying burn it down, but burn it down. But you know what I mean? Let's burn it down. So let's wrap this up with, you talked about reclaiming your space is about your power. It's about your boldness. It's about that loving yourself unapologetically without saying sorry. If you had to leave this with one advice for the person that's listening to this, the person that is like, I've never thought about that. I need to find myself. I want to love myself that way. What's the one thing you're going to tell them to do?
Remember that anyone's refusal to hear your voice doesn't make your voice any less powerful. And your perspective is valid, your story matters, and sometimes the most radical act is to keep speaking, and sometimes the most radical act is to conserve your energy and choose a space where your voice is valued.
But folks, I am the luckiest guy to be able to do this
Mm-hmm.
every week with Tanisha
Yes.
and have friends like Angel. I mean, you drop this nugget, separate the voice of the church from the voice of God. That is going to be running with me for a while. I feel like as soon as I end, I'm going to get on the phone with my sister and like, hey, let's talk about the voice of the church versus voice of God. But I'm really thankful for this conversation because it opened me up to some thinking about how I operate and how I can be more authentic to myself and not everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. I don't even know what I thought we were going to do in this conversation, but I was not expecting to get this deep
You know,
and get these nuggets. So I appreciate it. And you
Love
know
to be
what?
here.
I don't even know what the next episode is going to be about. So just stay tuned.
it don't even matter because the last two have been fired.
Yes.
So the last one we laughed, we joked, we talked about some deep stuff. This
Mhm.
one we talked about the healing of finding
Yes.
yourself.
Yes.
So we're progressing as we go.
Yes.
I mean, the next one we may talk about.
Here.
Yeah. We may.
It's going to be a healing moment.
Yeah. But either way, we said what we said.
And they're going to continue to say what we say.
This program is brought to you by Black Lives Matter New Hampshire and funded by Kennebunk Savings Bank. Please visit our website at www.blmnewhampshire.org for more information on our programs and offerings, and follow us on social media. Have a question or comment? Share your thoughts with us and we will respond on the next episode. Want to sponsor this podcast and have your business featured? Please email us at info@blmnewhampshire.org.
Say what I said and I meant it. No sugarcoating, no holding back. We can't pretend we're not affected. Gotta be the change, we gotta rearrange to create a world we envision. Make the quiet louder, bear witness. Proclaim your name cause you're gifted. There is power in forgiveness. Love ourselves, there's no limit. When you love yourself, there's no limit.